This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
On March 10th, 1990, in Kernersville, North Carolina, Terry Holt was spending the day at home with his children.
We were out here in the yard just messing around Saturday afternoon, killing time. Got a great idea, you know, why don't the kids and I camp out? Looks good.
Dad goes, let's set up the tent. Me and my cousin and brother and sister hollered out, yeah, let's do it.
The one thing I was concerned with, if I slept out there, where was I going to sleep? That ground wasn't too comfortable. So I had a blow-up mattress. I got this brilliant idea. I says, hey, freon jug, pump it up here in about 5 minutes and be done with it. I'm a heat and air conditioning technician. Freon's a big part of my business. Everybody's pumped up car tires, balloons, just little odd stuff. I know that freon is heavier than air. It will sink to the lowest place, and once you breathe it in your lungs, it will just smother you more or less.
But Terry wasn't worried because the mattress was sealed.
We have a real fun time camping out, even if it is out in the backyard.
Hey, Daddy, tell us a spooky story.
We proceeded to sleep in the tent that night. Had a good time, all of us joking, kidding, carrying on.
The next morning, 7-year-old Nicholas was playing inside the tent.
A friend and my sister and I were in and out the tent. My brother was helping out, and he had the cork undone.
Quit them, let that up for Dad. Those ridders are supposed to up. One of them down now. I'll tell them all. I don't care. I'll tell them myself. Oh, my God.
We heard him yell, oh my gosh, and we thought he was just fooling around. He used to play jokes on us like he was dying and everything, and we thought he was playing with us right then.
Something just told me to get up and go outside and check on the kids. So that's when I walked around the corner and just happened to walk by and look in the tent. And there lay Nicholas face down. He was just limp as a rag, just stretched out.
Nicholas.
I know first thought, he's full of freon. He was just completely gone.
Oh, my God, what happened?
Nicky was just limp, and I looked at his face, and I saw a clammy, gray, dead look about him.
I checked Nicholas's pulse. It was weak, but I knew he did have a heartbeat. The main thing I was worried about when I checked for the air, he had none. He was like a deflated balloon. There just wasn't nothing left there.
Because freon is heavier than air, it had filled the boy's lungs, and no oxygen could get in.
Emergency services.
At 2:52 p.m., Teresa's call for help came into the Forsyth County Fire Control Center. A rescue unit with the Piney Grove Volunteer Fire Department was immediately dispatched, but they were a few miles away.
When we came down the hall, we saw Nicholas, and I was scared that I was going to lose my brother.
Teresa then called her father.
It took me a while to make out it was my own daughter calling. And I heard her say that something happened to Nicholas. And then her next statement that I understood her to say was that he wasn't breathing.
I run outside, and at that time the neighbors were coming across the yard with the girls.
I couldn't see any sign of life in him whatsoever when I first saw him. And that's when it really scared me.
I yelled at Beanie, our next-door neighbor. I told her to keep the girls outside. I didn't want them to see their brother in the shape that he was in.
Nicholas. I knew that I had to get that air back in his lungs or it would be death. About the third time I'd give him mouth to mouth, I got a little peep out of him or squeak.
EMT Mike Chiefo was less than a block away when his pager went off. All he knew was that a child was not breathing at the house of his friends, the Holts.
I waved for him to come in and told him that it was Nicholas and he wasn't breathing.
Terry, what happened?
His face was all white, lips were blue, his eyes were rolled back into his head. I said, we need to put Nicholas on the rug, because if we have to do CPR, it's going to be better on a hard surface.
So I went inside, and so did they, and the next thing we know, Dad's bringing him in, and his life was in his arms. We were outside saying prayers and hoping that he would live. It's a scary feeling having a brother of your own that's near death.
Within minutes, Teresa's father, Ray Black, arrived.
My granddaughters were out on the front porch, and they were tremendously upset. They were crying and screaming. They wanted to see their brother. My impression of Nicholas was that the child had passed on, really. I did pray to God to take my life instead of his, because, he's just a baby. And I've lived a pretty good long time.
Nicholas started throwing up, and this black, oozy stuff was coming out of his nose and mouth.
Come on, get it out. Come on.
I felt better when I seen that. I knew something was moving again.
Okay, he's breathing. He's breathing.
And I cleaned everything out, and then at that time he started coughing, so he started breathing on his own.
Come on. Okay, come on. Okay.
It had been 7 minutes since Nicholas breathed in the freon. His mother and the paramedics did not know if there would be brain damage.
His eyes were opening, and I went down and knelt down beside him, and Harold behind me, and my dad, and was asking him, could he hear us? I had my hand around his two little fingers, and I said, if you can hear us, I said, squeeze Mama's hand. And he never would squeeze my hand, but he was looking around.
Eventually, he knew where he was at. He started talking, and we loaded him up in the ambulance, and we transported him to the hospital.
Nicholas had suffered no permanent injuries. He was released from the hospital later that same day. The quick action of his father and the other rescuers had prevented a serious tragedy.
My husband, to me, is a hero, and Mike, and all the people that worked in the squad from Piney Grove and the hospital.
Freon is dangerous. It'll kill you. It is a fact that everybody in my business use it to do things that shouldn't be done. But now it's kept up in a jug in the truck where it belongs.
The happiest one for me was when I got to come home and I got to see my mom and dad and my two sisters, and I was glad to have a second life instead of dying right then. The time I thought that things would get better is when he came back, and we seen him sitting here, alive, and knowing that he was alive, and that we could be sisters and brothers again. Love each other.